Glad to see everybody tonight. This is our new sound system that we purchased. We got it last month, and I hope everybody can hear me. If you would, Alan McCampbell, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Right here, the flag.
You'll follow?
Yeah.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, minutes, old minutes. Is there? Did everybody receive their old minutes? Anybody didn't receive them? All right, you talk to Bonetta and she'll straighten it out, I guess. Was there any changes that need to be made in the old minutes? Well, I pass a motion that we accept the minutes as written. Can anybody second it?
Second.
All right. Everybody's favor say aye. Aye. All right, thank you. What an Irish day. I mean, we had a great Irish day. It was one of the best ones I think I've ever seen, especially with the parade and everything. Got to get used to this system, so please bear with me. Okay, Miss Betty, would you do a financial report for me?
The balance at our last meeting in the checking account was $5,021.64. Our income has been dues of $100, books $150, a donation toward postage for $5 and 79 cents in interest. Total income was $255.79. Our expenses were $1,039.70, $20 for the annual report, $619.95 for the sound system, $367.75 for postage and mailing supplies, and $32 for shirts, which leaves a balance in the checking account of $4,237.73. In our memorial or brick account, that balance is $2,668.69, and our certificate of deposit, $10,494.39.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Betty. Excuse me. The t-shirts, this is what the back of it's going to look like, for those who haven't seen it. And this is the old courthouse. Okay. We have a deal on these t-shirts. If you're a member, they're $12 a piece. Non-members are $15. And those who forgot, the membership is due as of January 1st, so you can go ahead and pay tonight if you want to. Or you can see Miss Betty about it, but they were due January 1st. Okay. The brick walkway. Has anybody got anything to report on it?
Right where it wasn't that.
Well, I was over there Saturday night and I noticed at the end there was one brick lonely there, and we needed 2 more to fill out the walkway. We need to form a committee. I mean, well, I'm not going to do it right now, but we need to form a committee to proceed with that, because we have a lot of people that's put into it that we need to get the bricks made, and then we need to talk to the city about where we're going to go with it once we get the bricks made. But if anybody'd like to kind of be in charge of that, I sure would appreciate it. And if so, get with either Bonetta or me, and we'll see where we can go with it. But I think we need to jump back on that one, because that was a good program and a lot of people were buying bricks.
Jim?
Yes.
Jogging me on, I'm the one that has not paid my dues, which I take care of. But then I think if we put in the minutes, dues are due, here's what the costs, here's how to submit them, it may help jog some people's memory that may not be coming. Thank you. I knew you. Okay.
Thank you, Bonetta, but thank you, Alan. You're right.
I get Bonetta on the stuff.
Yeah. I had an idea of creating a form, and on that form you put your name, your address, and if it gets sent out in the minutes, we'll put it in the minutes, and you put your name, your address.
Separate form?
Yes. and an email on there, and then we'll put the price of what the what the membership is. Now, I mean, we're not going to send it every month, but we'll do it around when the dues are due, and that way we can kind of get an idea. Did you have a question? Okay. But you know, I know I forget if Miss Betty wouldn't remind me that, you know, when the dues are due, but yeah, Mike.
Yeah, do we have a way to pay a lifetime membership?
We did, I don't know what it was. It's been so long ago since we had that available, nobody remembers how much a lifetime costs.
I think it was $500, Mike.
I'm not gonna live that long, so.
Do you remember?
I think I paid it, that's why.
Betty, do you remember?
No, we weren't here at that time.
Nina, do you? Kay was a founding member. Do you remember what the lifetime was?
Probably back then we could have said 25.
Well, if we only have,
When the dues were
Elizabeth Martin
$5.
bought a lifetime membership because she hadn't been getting the dues. And what was that, about 2 or 3 years ago?
Elizabeth Martin and Irene Rokas are the only 2 lifetime members we have
Other
now.
than our veterans. But if it was $25 at that time, when dues were $5,
Shouldn't we double it?
be $100 for a
50.
lifetime?
$50 for a lifetime.
$50 for lifetime.
Yeah.
Prorate that.
Prorated?
We are.
Honestly, I've been a member for 13 years.
What, is anybody's opinion on making it $50, or do you think we ought to do it a little bit lower?
Not lower.
No, higher? I know Montgomery County is 150, but they have a lot more.
That's good.
Yeah. Is it? For a
We had
lifetime?
to go up to $10 because of the postage.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So they ain't telling how much postage is going to be 10 years from now, so I think $50 will start off, and we'll leave the option open that, you know, if somebody young pays it, we'll have to start raising it up. Sorry, but
So are you,
I'd like to make a motion that we raise our lifetime membership to $50. Anybody second it for me?
Honestly.
All right. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, it's so passed. I do like these T-shirts. I don't know if I showed it to you yet, but I'll show it to you.
you did.
Yeah. And they sold pretty good at the parade. I'd like to thank everybody that worked the booth and then came by the booth, because I think we got the word out. And we give a lot of information out, and we sold quite a few books, 4 or 5 maybe, but we did, or maybe more than that, we did do good on that. I know we had a lot of out-of-towners, and I know I've got pictures since the parade because I put the word out and Kay helped me gather them up, but we do have some old pictures that come in. And for those who are not familiar, I created another website, and it was called Here in Tennessee. And the week prior to the Irish celebration, I put 600 pictures of prior Irish celebrations on there, and the membership jumped to about 600 within a week's time. Everybody liked the pictures. They were all the way back from '63 to present. So if you want to check that out, it's still up, and I won't add as many pictures until next year, but there is a lot of nice pictures on there that people donated. The Historic Society site, it's at 1,951 members on there, so that's real good for here, if I think so, if I say so myself. Well, let's get on with the program. Bob McKinnon, you said you'd like to have a few minutes.
Any of you that are familiar with Magnolia would see the sign or the marker that Francis Henson had put in there several years ago. The other day we were going down through there, and I didn't see it. I thought, well, that thing's gone. But the wind had blown it over. It was put up with wooden posts, and the wind had blown it over. It didn't look like it's damaged, but I want to suggest or make a motion, whatever, that I get with somebody get with Diddle Aldbrooks and have him go down there and necessary bring it in if it needs repairing anyway, repair it and put it back up, this time with metal posts. But anyway, she had this done, started several years ago. It's been for a long time, but she took contribution from people who had relatives down there years ago or who lived in that area, and so it was put up there at no expense to the Historic Society, to the best of my knowledge. So I suggest or recommend or whatever, make a motion that someone get in touch with Dill. He'd probably go down there and bring it in and attach it to a metal post and put it back up where in the same location it's been in.
I second the motion.
I agree with him. As long as it don't go over Mike's lifetime membership, you know, we're doing all right.
I don't think it costs too much, but
Okay.
Dill does, he does a good job.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good idea.
Somebody needs to be doing, take charge of that.
You know him, don't you, Bob?
Hey, Mark?
You know him pretty good?
Oh, yeah.
Would you contact him and see what he says about doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'd like to make a motion that we contact him and put the sign back up. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, thanks everybody. Well, Melissa Barker, she wants to tell us about the progress at the archive, so Melissa, come on up. Did I tell you I got these t-shirts, John? I put my neck out on these, so if anybody wants them, you know, like I said, if you're a member, they're $12, non-members are $15.
Look there, there's money right there. Jerry.
There's a man with money.
Okay, the archives actually had a very successful day on Saturday too. We were open, so if y'all didn't come, next year you gotta come. We stay open during the Irish celebration. We actually had a lady that came from Linville, Tennessee, from Giles County. And I always ask everyone who comes in, are you from here or are your family related from here? And this lady said, no, I'm not from here, my family's not from here. She said, I was looked on the internet to find something to do for the weekend and I came up with this. So she came to our Irish celebration and came to the archives, so that was very interesting. I can tell you that this is going to sound a little strange. We're in our third year at the archives, and we've worked on a lot of different collections that we're continuing to work on. But on Friday, we actually totally 100% completed our first manuscript collection. And that is a big deal. When I say completely completed, that is from going from it being in its state that we found it in, and we've processed it, and we've indexed it, and we've created a finding aid, and we have boxed it, and it's complete and ready. And that was the special veterans poll tax receipts that we finished. Miss Ann Sykes, who is one of my volunteers, she actually did the processing, which was putting them in the archival files and boxes, and I did the indexing and the finding aid. So these are receipts that were done in about the 1949-1950 time range. And what it was is that veterans of World War II could use their service to pay their poll tax. But they had to fill this form out, and it gives their date of service when they went in, when they were discharged, their serial numbers, and it also has their signature. So that's very important for family and genealogy research. So we're real excited to have one collection finished. We're working on 100 at a time. I also wanted to recognize a couple of people. We have received some record donations in the last week. We're always ready to accept record donations. So if you have anything, please see me. We would be glad to take it. Don't throw it away. Charles Alsbrooks brought us a horse show program and a newspaper clipping of the Tennessee Ridge Festival from, can't remember the date on it. It had Robert Brown in it, and he's this tall. So it's been a while back. And Miss Carolyn Sykes is here. She gave us a whole stack of newspapers and articles, especially on Irish celebration, and a very, very interesting, I would call it a journal for W.J. Brodus, who was a Methodist minister, is that correct? Okay. And the journal is handwritten by him, which is beautiful handwriting, and it has scriptures written in it, and it has his spiritual thoughts and things like that. So it's very, very interesting. So we have that. And I want to thank Carolyn for donating that. That was very, very nice. So like I said, we're always accepting records donations. If you think it's garbage, please don't throw it away. Bring it to us. We really do take just about anything. The last thing I'm kind of excited about is in January the Archives Committee met, and in February the Records Commission met, and both groups of people decided to make a recommendation to the county commissioners that the archives needed more storage room. Even though we've cleaned out some, we also still receive records on a yearly basis from the county offices. And so we're running out of room, which is no great surprise. But last night at the legislative body meeting, they voted, and we will be able to use the basement of the old jail for record storage. I have not seen it yet. I understand from several sources that it's actually in really good condition and dry. That I think the VFW or the American Legion, I don't know which, has actually done the drywall. VFW. It's been drywalled and painted, and it looks nice down there. So we're looking forward to being able to use that for storage. We're still going to be based in the courthouse because I want to be close to all the offices and work closely with them. But we'll be able to use that for extra storage, which we desperately need. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Melissa. We got a real interesting program tonight, so without further ado, I'm going to invite Howard Spurgeon up to do his slideshow presentation. So, thank you.
Good evening. Before I start the show, I wanted to run across a couple of things. One, when we set this up, we titled it Where We're From. Well, so I decided that I really needed to know where Houston Countyans came from, so I did some research, and this is what I found. And according to the statistics of ancestries in Houston County, 23% of us are from English heritage of one type or another. And Scotch-Irish, 18%, Irish, another 12%, and then looking at other groups, we had Germans of about 7%, Italians 5%, French 3%, Dutch 3%, Scottish 3%, Norwegians 2%, and there's 2% Polish in the county as well. And so it's we're kind of a mixture when we take a look at it. One of the things that's interesting and goes with our trip was the fact that when we take a look at where people came to in this country, almost all of the immigration that we had prior to about 1880s was what we called old immigration. And that was all from Ireland and England and France. Those are the three big countries we had in that time frame. After 1880, what we had from 1880 to 1920 is we had the Germans, the Greeks, the Turks, the Italians, and the Poles, and the Russians. And so it's really interesting when you begin to take a look at the statistics that we have. As I start the slideshow, I could literally, if you were willing, keep you here for over 3 hours, because that's how long it takes to go through. Diane and I, and along with Kent and Susan Bell, were very fortunate last year to take a trip to Europe. And we spent 28 days, crawled on a big jet out at Nashville, flew to Chicago, and then 5,000 miles later, with a transfer in Madrid, Spain, we end up in Venice. Well, it was a long trip, but when you get to Venice, you can't just get off the plane and go to the hotel. So what are you going to do? You got to go to the canal and you got to see Venice. So that's what we did. This is a water taxi in Venice, and we were allowed to and tour pretty much the entire city this way. Venice is often called the city of bridges, the city of water. You might take a look at it and say, well, geez, you know, what is Venice made of? It's actually 118 islands is what it concludes. And all of the buildings you see are actually built on wooden pilings. And they drove these wooden pilings side by side into the soft mud that you had. And with that, you might say again, well, how are they still standing? Well, the thing is that the pilings were made out of a type of wood in that part of the world that is so dense that it doesn't absorb water. And so with that, what you had was all these pilings, because of the lack of oxygen, are still in relatively good condition. Now, Venice itself has been looked upon, and people say it's sinking. Well, it did for a while. And the reason it was sinking was because the citizens of Venice actually went out and they dug wells on the island itself, and they took the water out from the aquifer, and so that's why the city began to sink. In the late 1980s and 90s, they stopped that and have since put water back in, and they've somewhat stabilized it. This bridge that you're looking at is what we call the Rialto Bridge, or the Bridge of Signs, that was there. Now this gives you a kind of a picture. The tall tower you see in the background is the Tower of St. Mark that's there. And it's one of the largest areas within the city itself. Bridges cross over the, and you can see some of the frescoes. By the way, these are mosaic tiles that were up there. And they have been there since about the 1450, somewhere in 1450 to 1500 time frame. And beautiful, to say the least. We take a look. These are actually the pilings that you would see, and they would tie all the gondolas. Now, we didn't take a gondola trip. We were quite conservative at that point. A gondola trip for one individual is about 45 euros. Well, 90 euros for a couple, and you're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of $130 to $150 US. So there is a major difference in the euro and here. You can see this is part of the St. Mark's in there itself. The tower's on the left. Diane is looking for trinkets. You know, we get here, she's shaking her head. You shouldn't have put that in there. But you've got to know that there's street vendors that you're buying things from. I was walking around, and this is one of the gardens off to the side there in the St. Mark's area. Streets. We drive down paved streets, they take boats down to their house. And this is literally everywhere that you go in Venice. Good picture, I thought, of Kent and Susan here, and we're coming back up on a public water taxi this time, back in. From Venice, we were great weather there, a nice sunny day. Next day though, we moved south and the rain came, and so we're in Croatia. And the city that we went to in Croatia is Dubrovnik. And Dubrovnik is a World Heritage Center, or city. It's one of the few that is out there. This is Orfono's fountain that was there. The water actually was built as an aqueduct that came down, and I think it was 1432. And the water comes down to that fountain. It still flows today, and they're still able to go and get water from that. This is gelato that you just saw up there. Never had it before. Needless to say, after the first time, every time we went by one, had to have it. It was definitely something that was good. This is the bell tower in Dubrovnik itself, and you can't see from this picture. This is St. Blaise, by the way, and you can see that he's holding a manufacture or a part of the city itself in his hand. He's the patron saint that's there. This is a statue of Roland. Now, Roland is the symbol of free cities in Europe, and you'll find Roland not only in Dubrovnik, but in others. The walk that you see here is also known as the city with marble streets. Well, it's not really marble. What it is what we have. It's limestone that has been walked upon so many years that it's polished, and it looks like marble, because it's just like it's got a glaze over the top of it. This is the bell tower, I was mentioning it. And these are the strikers on the hour. And so you can see there. The wall, I couldn't resist this. During the Croatian War back in the 1990s, this is damaged. There were 650 artillery shells fired into the city, and it was an open city. But yet, they decided they couldn't do that, and so the war continued. Most of it has been repaired. I thought this was unique. The hand here, allowing you to be able to go up the steps, and this takes us up to really the wall of the city. The city is actually completely walled. It's one of the top 10 wall cities in the world today. We didn't do the full 2-mile tour. We did part of it, and then looked down over the harbor. And one of the interesting things about the harbor here, and why Dubrovnik is so interesting, is this was also the location where Richard the Lionheart is reported to have survived the shipwreck and came aboard or came on shore. There was a wedding going on in one of the chapels that was there. The tree that just passed, that's their native orange is not good to eat unless you make orange marmalade. This is the main street that you see here. The Rector's Palace was right on the right there. There was a little church on the side. We were walking down the church street. We said, okay, we got a few minutes left. Well, let's just go in here, see what's in here. And so we walked in, and this is what we found. This is one of the things about the Mediterranean area and about Europe itself, is that you can turn a corner, walk into a church, and it's magnificent, the art and all that's here. You have to understand that these paintings and things like this have been here since, well, they're 500 plus years old at this point in time. You can see 3 of my compadres were sitting there and kind of stargazing, and I was out taking others. This, by the way, is a performer on the outside of the city, and he was actually in native costume of the day and of previous time. The ocean is right up against the city. From Dubrovnik, we moved right on to Athens. And I always wanted to go to Athens. We're about halfway up here, and we're climbing up to what will be the Parthenon. And with that, look back down, and here's the stadium, and you can see all of the stadium, the seating and everything for the programs that would have been there. This would have been a grand theater, and I believe that this one sat somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 people at that point in time. That's Athens in the background. This is Athens that you can see in the distance as well. It is a climb. As Diane told me, it's a good thing we were going to the gym and practicing on the bike and walking before we went, or we wouldn't have made it. But we made it. We intended to, one way or the other. This is actually a temple from looking down from the Parthenon. There's yours truly. I'm a little winded at this point, but I'm almost at the top, so we're getting there. The Parthenon itself. When you arrive at the Parthenon and you're on top, you really look at it, there's only 2 buildings left today. Initially, there were about 7 buildings that were up there. Now, the Parthenon itself, one of the things that I find interesting about it, and this, by the way, is the Apollo temple here, and you can see the statues that are being used to help hold the upper part of the temple itself. They were very beautiful. This is also a place where there's an olive tree that was brought centuries before, still living right on the ground. And this is looking into the Apollo temple that was there. This that you see on the ground, you see the square hole that was in it. Well, actually what they did is they took the wood that I was talking about from the Mideast, and to get these sections of columns, is the wood would be driven in that hole, and then another one would be set on top of it. That's how they held these things together. The artwork and the design and the carvings on these things were just magnificent when you look at it. Keep in mind, the figure that you see up here is over 2,000 years old, and is still standing there today. This was a horse on the other side that had been carved, and you can see the detail that was provided there as well. The Parthenon itself was severely damaged during the Ottoman period. The Ottomans themselves, they brought in, and they decided that what they would do, it was used as a fort. They stored all their ammunition and gunpowder in it. Well, needless to say that when they were attacked, one of the shells hit in that ammunition and damaged a great bit of the Parthenon. And so today, they're in the process of repairing it. The doors you see here on hinges have been on those same hinges for over 2,000 years at this point. There was a gentleman in their native costume, got it down at the bottom. He didn't want his picture to be taken unless you paid him to do it. But you know, as Tennessee conservatives, what could we say? He wasn't looking, and I took the picture anyway. So, this gives you an idea. This, by the way, is the Temple of Zeus that you find in Athens. I have a couple of pictures of that. But this gives you contrast of the old and new. And so as you look at the Temple of Zeus here, again, think of this as being 2,000 to 2,100 years old. And then here's the modern transit system that sits right on the edge of the streets. Again, this is a better shot of the columns that are still standing. So you've got the major contrast between the two. Looking back, looking up, this is the Parthenon that you can see on top of the Acropolis here. And also the drainage system that they used up there for the rain and all was quite unique, in which that it was collected, channeled, and then fed down and out at the bottom. We then moved to 1898. This is the home of the modern Olympic Games. This was the stadium that was built then and was used for the games, with what they called the, quote, the modern Olympics. This is Hadrian's Gate, right on the street, one of the main streets. You'll notice curves around, etc. This is what they call the Palaka. And the Palaka is actually the shopping and eating area in Athens. And so we're tourists. We go down the street as well. Nobody seemed to pay any attention to where you were from. And it was great. So we would decide to have lunch. Well, so we have the typical Greek lunch. And this is pork that they're cooking. I'm sitting up on a balcony looking down over the top of it, so I'm getting some really good pictures. And then Susan's come. This is a Greek salad. And if you know Susan, Susan likes to take a lot of pictures of food, so I took this with of hers. And this one was a zucchini balls, are really what they were. I couldn't resist the sign. Zorba the Greek, you've seen the movie perhaps or whatever, but it's really interesting, and I saw that, I got to take that. Well, this gives you an idea. They were actually working to extend the rail system, and they uncovered part of the piering for one of the old ports that was there. And when they do that in antiquities, they're not allowed to continue, so everything stopped. Our next stop on the trip is Santorini, one of the most magnificent and beautiful Greek islands I think you can get. You're going to recognize it. It is actually formed from a caldera, which is a volcano that erupted many years ago and then collapsed into the ocean. It is deep enough that virtually all ships of any size are able to go in and anchor within it itself. The uniqueness of the island is things are white, and I'll tell you why, and also the blue dome churches. On this island, there are 450 of these churches. Each church is generally individually by a family. It's owned individually by a family. And then what they do is that the family, if they're having special days or name days, now they do not celebrate birthdays like we do. They celebrate naming days, and that's when that they receive their name. They go to the church, they receive their name that they're going to have, and that becomes the naming date, and that's the date that they celebrate. As we go through here and you see the white walls, the reason they're white is that centuries ago, they would go through the winters, and come springtime, they have all these diseases. So what they would do is they'd take lime, and they would go outside and inside, and everything was coated with a coat of lime. It was to eliminate disease. And so as a result, they liked it. People came, tourists came to see the island, and it is now a law. You must, at least once a year, you whitewash your house. And so it is there. Some of the pictures you've seen, if you've seen the Greek islands and postcards, then you've seen these pictures as well. It is stunningly beautiful. I will admit it's one of the places I'd like to go. They use every space they can get. This is actually a tourist shop, place to go down and buy your trinkets that are there. Isn't that gorgeous right there? On the front of the church, again, mosaic tiles. This is a Greek Orthodox church on the island itself. And that was our mode of transportation for 28 days. And thank goodness it wasn't Carnival at that point in the drive. But still, it was a great, great trip. Here we are, we're at a winery. And Alan, you appreciate this. The grapes are not staked. they are actually taken and the grapes are swirled into a round, and it's like almost like a basket. And then they go by and they pick the grapes up that way. They're never put on runners or brought up. It's totally different. Notice that all the houses are built into the cliff side that's there. The depth of the water I mentioned, oh, let me do this. To get from the ocean level to the top to the town, there's 600 steps. I had to take that one, 588. I'll be honest, I walked down the 18 steps and took the picture and then went back up because I did not walk up the 600 steps. There's only 3 ways. One, we were able to catch a bus at the main port, but mostly you have to walk up, you take a tram, or you take donkeys. And I'll show you the donkeys in a minute. This was a Roman Catholic church that was up on the island itself. This is the tram. It is pretty much almost a straight down shot. And here are the donkeys. Notice no guides. They put you on the donkey, and if you're at the bottom, they let the donkey loose. The donkey's going to go up 600 steps for you to get off. If you fall off in the way, you've got to walk. The donkey's going one way or the other. If you're at the top, it's in reverse. We decided we would trust the tram. And so we're in the tram. That's the donkeys that are over there going up at this point. Not many riders. Okay. We then moved from Greece to Turkey, and you're going to see some individuals in some costumes here. Typical Turkish, performers in there. We were at Kadasi, and we were moving to a particular tour that we were on. We go through the town, and we're going to go to Mary's house. Well, we arrived. Here's the statue at Mary's house. I have a lot of different pictures, but to give you a quick turn, this is a cistern that's there, and the grounds that it's believed that she probably drew water. It talks about Mary's house. The Roman Catholic Church, the popes, 2 of the popes have made pilgrimages to the house itself. This is the house. Originally, when they looked at the house and they tried to find it, they got their clues from a vision from a person that was of religious order, like a nun, in Germany. Now, you're not supposed to take pictures in this place, but entrepreneuring individuals with telephoto lens can still stand outside and you can get pretty good pictures. And that's what I did. So, Ken, you may have to forgive me, I don't know. The bottom line...
are looking for you right
here. The thing about it, I'll try to get enough time to tell you about it. Diane is getting water from the spring. The spring that's there, it's not purified, but it is 99+% pure water from where she was there. This is a wall in which that you could get ribbons and you could write prayers and you could tie them to the wall that was there. And this is looking out over the basin. Mary's house at one point would have looked over the bay, over a harbor. Because of the silt in the river, the ocean is now nearly 30 miles away. And that's how much it's filled over the 2,000 years that is there. We're going into Ephesus. Back to Mary's house for a minute while it moves forward. Mary's house was found because this nun individual actually came up with the idea and vision that this was where Mary's house was located. A group later on, nearly 100 years later, went and made the attempt to find it and came back and said, we didn't find anything. There's an old house there, but it's not the right one. 2 individuals decided they would go try again. When they did, this time they followed the directions exactly and they found the remains. The Catholic Church is so convinced today that it is the house of Mary, where John took his mother and left her as he was establishing the church in Ephesus, that they have taken the artifacts out of the house or the temple that is in Jerusalem and have moved it to Ephesus. And 2 popes at this point have made pilgrimages to honor the site that is there. This is the symbol here for the pharmacy, and cats were everywhere, by the way, the cause of royalty, among other issues. The city of Ephesus itself has a long history. In fact, at one point, this is the winged knight, or winged victory here. But the city of Ephesus changed hands many times over the years. And this is all marble, by the way, and you can see the carvings that were done. But as it changed, temples would be destroyed, they would take part of it, and they would build another temple on top of it. When that one was destroyed, they'd take all the materials and they'd build another one on top of it. I'm up at the top, beginning to look down the street. The tall building you see in the background is the library of Ephesus. The tin place on the left there was actually a palace house, and we did not get to go into the palace house. All of these fronts and the facades that you see are of temples, of bathhouses, of things. This mosaic tile, by the way, is over 2,000 years old, and is still in that type of condition. This was actually a small theater that was on the right off the main street. The street is called Curtis Street. And some of the facades and artwork that you see of their design effort. Couldn't resist this one. This is the bath. This is where you go to the bathroom, men and women. It's joint. And the thing was, it is one of the most elaborate systems you can imagine. Because when you went to the bathroom, they had flowing water underneath those, and after you used the bathroom, it was washed away. And so you talk about a flush system, they had a flush system over 3,000 years ago at that point. By the way, all those seats were marble, and in the center would have been a public bath as well. Many of the statues there have been damaged at one point or another. Those that they could or couldn't, they actually went back and put renewed ones. This is the gate, lower gate into the city of Ephesus. This is the library. And at one point, this library held between 12 and 15,000 different scrolls. And so I went into the library. This is what it this is what it looked like inside. Each one of those bins would have had places for all these scrolls that you could have taken a look at. You can see some of the remnants of where they would have had guides as to what was in each one. This was the ceiling as you stepped out of the library and looked up. And I thought, geez, look at all this work that they've done in this. This is actually the flea market. And all of the fishermen, the farmers would have brought their goods there. Well, this is the big stadium. Seats about 25,000 people. I told you St. John took his mother there. Now, St. John was one of the early starters of the church at Ephesus. He actually has a church that's in Seljuk, which is about 10 kilometers away, something along that line. The stadium that you saw is where that you had Paul go to help the church at Ephesus, and where he spent nearly 2 years trying to build that church before he went on to, I believe it was Macedonia at that time. While we were there, they also set up for us a period costume program showing us, because Ephesus was the location of where Mark Antony and Cleopatra came and actually sat and ruled for a while. They had gladiators fight. Mark Antony was asking us, do we want him to live or die? Of course, everybody wanted him to die, and he voted against it, so he was allowed to live. They then did the parade, but all the costumes were period design work. And we were told, well, you can't go to Turkey. What's famous in Turkey? How about rugs, carpets? Anybody want to guess how much this little slab of carpet will cost you there? Try $10,000 plus. These carpets, most of them this size take 3+ years to make. Each fiber is hand tied. This is the harbor that's there. You might say, did we get one? No, we did not get one. In there. From there, we went to Mykonos, which is another Greek island, and this was my least favorite, I guess, place, if you have a least favorite place to go to, just because I've been so overwhelmed by Santorini in there, and by Athens, and by Ephesus, and Mary's house, and everything. But the windmills are there, and I think there were 24 windmills on the island, if I remember correctly. We also went to a monastery that was there. You can see the design work or the items that they use for hanging, which that they swing back and forth with the incense and all. And I apologize for this being a little blurred, but I wanted you to see. The soot had covered all of this to such an extent that they decided they would clean it. When they cleaned it, they found that this was all gilded silver and gold. They did not realize what they had. But again, notice the work that is in this as well. Typical fishing boat that you would find. And then following this at Mykonos, I told you about all the individual churches. This is a little individual church. It was open, and so I had a chance to take a look. What does it look like? The churches, by the way, when they have a celebration, what they will do is that everyone on the island is invited, and the family provides all the food and drink. And the naming day party, or whatever party it is, it's not an hour or two. It is listed in 2 and 3+ days. And they party well. From there, we went to Naples. And from Naples, we moved right over to Pompeii. And that's coming up in a second. Oh, before we got to Pompeii, something that you can only find 4 places in the world. And the gentleman was explaining from the shell. What do they get from a shell? This is a lady that is working on one at the present time, but what you're going to get are these. These are cameos that are done. And they were gorgeous, just gorgeous. And the colors, whether they're the brown and white or the blue, depends upon the shell that they actually start with and work with. This is Pompeii, and of course we all know that Vesuvius erupted and destroyed Pompeii, and buried pretty much everybody alive within a short time frame. And so therefore, most of the citizens of Pompeii, when they died, they were right there. And as we go through this from history, etc., I expected to see these things everywhere, but they have moved most of the bodies and the plaster casts that they had to museums. This is actually a garden and a public bath. I had to take the picture. I want you to notice the size of the door and the lady that's standing to it. The people in Pompeii, the average male height was less than 5 feet 4 inches. And you talk about our size today, you know what, the average size of the American male is somewhere around 5'11" to 6 foot, somewhere in that neighborhood, I think, today. Uniqueness, notice the bottom. This is marble, the top is limestone. The rich got to sit on the marble. And if you were just the average paying citizen, then you were on the other. The streets were all designed and laid out here, and you see all the grooves, and it was to channel water away as well. Now, another thing about the street, none of the people in Pompeii could read or write. And so they were great at artistic work, but they didn't know how to get from one place to the other. And this is a public bath. I've got a picture coming up that's going to show you how they knew what street to go to. This is the men's bath. This would have been the pool. You would have had all these areas for changing, dressing, etc. That was there. This is where we finally found, and what they did is when they uncovered through the excavation process, they would take and do plaster casts there of these individuals. and the frame that when they were hit by all the gases and they died and froze at the time. This is how they knew. That was the street sign and told them what street they were on. Here we are in Pompeii. We've reached the main market area, and then that's Vesuvius. If you want to know how tall it was, take your hands and hold it up, and what you'll find is that when Vesuvius blew on that particular day, over 7,000 feet of it blew at one time. So today it's still 7,000 to 8,000 feet or more, even more than that, but the top of it all became ash and settled down. All of this at one point was completely covered. It's been cleaned. We're back in Naples. This is the average street that you would find. You don't find any big Ford F-150s running up and down the street, I can tell you that at all. But just walking down through the streets sometimes was a challenge. This is the fort that guarded the port in Naples itself. Naples was heavily damaged during World War II, and of course this is one of the streets climbing up to the top, climbing from one level up to the top. There were always fountains and artwork of statues in places. Up on top of the hills overlooking the bay at Naples, and this gives you an idea. This is the one side. Here we are coming around toward the other. You can see the fancy homes that are built on the edge of the cliff here. And then here looking across the bay, and that is Vesuvius. The last time Vesuvius erupted was in 1944, and just so happened that the American forces had landed in Naples just nearly a week or so before, and actually were able to record and did record all of the eruption at that one time. Boats were everywhere. The punt marks you see on the building, this was one of the few places that survived, but those are repaired places that from shell fragments and bomb fragments of the war. We had people who walked the streets, typical what you think in Italy, there. Now, they're not horseshoes, that's chocolate. Look at all of this, I mean, unique chocolate. I couldn't resist taking pictures as I walked through here. And all the chocolate in the shape of all these implements that were there. Then you get down to the other part. You could buy any of it if you wanted it, but chocolate was everywhere. I'll make you hungry. You're going to have to go home and have some chocolate. By the way, this is, they were having cakes at the same time and doing cake decorations and decorating designs, and quite unique to say the least. You might give some ideas to the local people. From there, we moved to Rome. Rome is one of my most favorite cities, I think, around. This is, by the way, St. John's Church. That is all mosaic tile. I wish you could see the difference. If you walk to it, and as you walk in front of it, it changes. And it has a different look to it. Every time you move 10 feet to the right, it changes in the way it looks and the reflection. This is actually a part of the Roman wall that's there. And this is what they call the Palatine or Palatine Hills. This is where the elite would have lived in Rome itself. The area here, this is known as the Circus Maximus. This area in old Roman times, about 100 AD, would have held somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000 spectators for various games, chariot races, whatever it might have been. We then pass by the Colosseum. We do come back to it as such. And then we go to what is known as Tivi or Trevi Fountain. This is one of the most spectacular fountains in Italy. And all the carvings, the water, this is the one where that you're supposed to take the coins and you throw them over your shoulder, and that means you're going to get to come back. Well, I was there in 2006, and I threw the coins, and we got to go back. So it was a fantastic trip. But I love the fountain. But I learned something new on this trip, and it's about to come up. There's a church right off the square. It's right to our right is that we're looking at the fountain here. And the fountain is known as the Trevi Church, and it's a Catholic church. This is the outside of it here. And I walked in and I took some pictures and, you know, okay, nice looking church. Okay, they had just finished services and everything. And I came home and I was looking up, okay, I've got my scrapbook, what's the name? This is the word that the Catholic Church stores the hearts of all the past popes. And when a pope passed away, what they did is they would remove the heart, and the hearts are then preserved, and they are stored in this church. That was, I wasn't quite prepared for that, to say the least. This is right next to the winged fountain, and it's actually standing upright, but give you the design work on the columns. There you go. Imagine how many hours it took to build this stuff and carve all of this. Here we are, looking past Diane there. This was one of the fountains that was there, not fountains, but market areas that was right off of the area. And I don't recall the name of it offhand, but this is where the vendors would have come and they had their fruits and their vegetables, etc. Right across from it, this is what is known as the Forum. And we go down into the Forum, and you're walking on the old Roman highway. 2006, I did that as well, and came back and had to have someone repair both meniscus in the knees because I slipped on the wet rocks. This time, got lucky, but it is an interesting experience that you go through as you walk through the old part of the center of Rome. This is one of the many crowns, or what you see as gates, going into the old Forum area. And you can see all the design work that's here. I'll show you a unique one in a minute. Okay, this is actually a carving. You can't see the top, but this is a carving of the Romans, and that's the Jewish menorah that's at the top of the carving on there. Here is another particular carving that was done because of some action. It tells a story as you go through. We walk down at that point, and we're down to the Colosseum. And unlike my previous trip, I was not allowed to go in to the Colosseum. This time, we were allowed entrance, and so we actually get to go in. We get to go into the floor. And so you can see us as we begin to enter the area. The stadium itself was a covered stadium. And the way they covered it is that they had boat crews who worked with the beat of a drum. And what they would do is the spectators would come in and they would stretch a canvas over the top of it to keep the sun off of them or the rain off of them. And they moved it, and it was choreographed by the beat of the drum, like the rowing that they would do at ancient time. The floor that was here underneath would have been where that you would have had the gladiators, the various animals, etc. And then the floor would have been wood over the top of it. And then what they did is there were actually elevators in this that brought animals up to the surface so that they could be pushed out into the fighting that was there. Well, they had these boards and they were all covered with dirt and sand so that once they had their big game, they could go in, cover up the dirt that was there or dig up what they needed to, and it was fresh and ready to go again. Well, you got to have a little Tennessee and Italy too, right? Okay, I couldn't resist taking the picture. And that, Jack lives here. This is Hadrian's castle. We're getting ready to go to St. Peter's here. And if you watch the Pope and the white smoke and everything that went on in the news the last couple of weeks, I watched it only because I was there. I knew this is where I stood that time. That's where I was today. Well, you can see right in the middle, that's where that they raised the curtain, opened the curtain, and out he stepped. We had the new Pope. You see all the designs and everything on top here. We're actually walking into St. Peter's at this point, and this is the ceiling. This is just the roof to give you an idea. One of the most beautiful to me statues in the world is the Pieta. When you're standing in front of this, it's one of those moving experiences because it's almost like you can feel it. And how he got it, you just don't know. I mean, it's kind of like when we went through Mary's house. It was so unique, but yet when you walked through and you came out on the other side, the hairs on your arms were standing up because you were just so involved with it. This is actually inside. This is the Pope's throne that's sitting back in the back there. Down those steps, right in the center. By the way, those are all gold leaf candelabras around it. But down those steps is where they found the remains in about 2004, 2005 of, I believe they said, was St. Peter. Some of the other artwork, this is all marble, by the way. This is the Pope's throne, the top part of it. More of the artwork. St. Peter's is the largest church in the world. There are brass plaques in the floor, and when you reach one plaque, it will say, okay, Notre Dame is from here to the back of the church in size. Well, you're already in the church, and you turn around and look where you came in. You get to the next one, it says, this is St. Patrick's in New York. Well, that's only how big St. Patrick's is. So this is huge. We were unable to go into the Sistine Chapel because they were having services. And so they had it roped off. We couldn't get there. Swiss Guard, you saw these the other night as well. By the way, it is a very, very major honor for a person to be selected in Switzerland. It's a major competition to get to come to be a guard for the Pope. And they've been doing this for over 300 years at this point in time. This is Livorno, Pisa. This is the Leaning Tower. Interesting facts about this is Mussolini decided in the 1930s that nothing in Italy should lean, and so he tried to get engineers to straighten it up. Well, when they went to work on it, instead of being at 14 degrees, it went to 17 degrees instead. So they had to quit. Well, what they've done since then is they actually had to go in onto the far side, dig underneath it, and try to raise it. Well, when they did, it came right back to 14 degrees and stopped. And so they decided they better leave it alone. For many years, you could not go up in the tower itself. They have now reopened because they determined that it is stable. Uniqueness, the church and the mausoleum here, both of those also lean as well. And if you look at the side of the church, you'll get down about the fourth or fifth one, and it's leaning. I found this to be some of the best mosaics that we ran into on the trip itself. And these are all on the outside of the church in Pisa. You're going to see part of a brass door or a brass door here. And that is solid brass. All the design work and everything that's in it as well. And I came back and I was showing this to our oldest grandson. He said, I just got through seeing that in my history book. And so he was talking about that as well. I thought this church was beautiful inside. Some of the paintings and all were just tremendous. If you're a woodworker, take a look at this. This is all hand-carved wood. Yeah, that's what that one is. Again, just looking at it. This was the ceiling in the center of the church. Just wonder how many hours somebody spent trying to get that together. Okay, this is the outside of the church. Take a look at it. You can see the right side is down somewhat, and it leans as well. But when you look at the, and you go to Pisa, everyone is always the leaning tower. That's the thing that everyone wants to take a look at. Being ex-Navy, I couldn't resist. This is the French mighty aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle. It's only about a third of the size of one of our aircraft carriers, so I call it a baby carrier. We were in France at this point. You can see the grapes. They're not like the Greeks. They have them all up and everything. When we were in Toulon, and we went to Marseille. We actually go there twice, and we go to Marseille and we tour the city, and this is one of the temples, not temples, but one of the Catholic churches there as well. Most tours, you're going to see a church in Europe at one point or another there, but it was different. You can see definitely had differences to it. One of the things about the art that you see in these, depending upon the church itself, upon the stained glass, etc., is that in history there were periods in which that we went through the Renaissance period, etc. We begin to see reflection. We begin to see three-dimensional images, and you could tell as you went from one church to the other where it actually fell, when it was built, or approximate time it was built. This is actually the street, one of the streets that we were in. This was the harbor in Marseille. Lots and lots of sailboats here. And we have the fountains as well. A lot of fountains in Marseille. And we had castles. Marseille is an interesting town. From there, we moved to Barcelona. This is in Spain, of course. And Barcelona, Cologne, here. One of the things that's interesting about this is that you're going to see underneath this one a statue. And what they've done is this was prepared. Each one of the brass plaques you see depicts a Spanish exploration of the Americas. And so you can actually walk around and you can see where that Columbus was explaining to it. And it was done in commemorative here, I can't get it out, in October, and you can read it, but I believe it's 1492, it was 400 years later, so the Roman numerals were 1892 was the time frame. Another close-up here, you can see the conquistadors and the various explorers, whether it was Columbus, Cortez, Pizarro, etc. All of them were there. We really liked Barcelona. It was a great place. Columbus, of course, the statue here. Barcelona is, in fact, Spain is almost like an American city to some extent. The roads are that way. It's modern compared to a lot of the rest of Europe. And so very, very different. It's also the place that had not had French fries at this point for about 3 weeks or something like that. And sometimes you got to have a little of that good old American grease, right? Notice the beautiful stained glass. This was interesting. In the church here, what they did is that they had this image on one side and they had it on the other. And they told us that it was false, a false organ. And they built it so that people didn't know which one was which. More wood carvings that were there. Stained glass again. Place of the martyrs and resistance. So we're back in France again. Beautiful open flower markets that were there. And this time when we were back in France, instead of going to Marseille, we went to Aix-les-Provence. And we saw, you could go down and pick up any kind of flowers. If you wanted to go plant flowers, you were in heaven. Take a look at the vegetable market here. This is the outdoor vegetable market that farmers had brought in that were there. Some good looking produce was there. Fountains again. Oxen there. I took that picture just so I could make sure I knew what the city was. Here, this is the countryside that we're seeing at this point. And then we move on to, this is Majorca, Palma de Majorca. And so we're going through some of the Spanish streets. This is actually an island off the Spanish coast that was there. And bullfighting ring. Have any of you been to a bullfight? Okay, I've been to one. That's all. Don't need to go back. So this is a huge ring. And it's still a national sport in Spain itself. This church was fantastic. Did not get to go in it, but the design and just the buttresses, which is the side, it was how the church was built. And this church really is an antique. This is also the only Roman Catholic church in the world built next to the sea. And they built it there because it was built for and in honor of sailors. So that's why it was there. But notice the design work. And all of these tall buildings you see on the outside are there to help hold the walls up. The arch wall here was actually built by the Muslim world, the Moors, centuries before. And what can you be out in the middle of the country here? You got a big bull up here, and you got the guy. What do they do in Spain? They run the bulls, right? Okay, well, we didn't go to the town where they do it, but what we found out was that the town that everybody sees on the news is not the only town that does it. And take a look at some of the streets coming up here. If you're caught in these streets, there is barely room for a mini car to fit down these streets. You can imagine turning a bunch of bulls loose. By the way, the inside of some of these entryways are all mosaic tiles and ceramic tiles. This is a courtyard that was here. Interesting way to hang flower pots on the wall. Get an idea of chasing bulls in that. And this was looking out. The town was actually on top of a large hill, mountain, whatever, in that area as well. This, unique only because it's called a carpet of trees. And as you're coming out over the mountains, etc., you look down and the trees are like almost like umbrellas, and they're so close on top. And when you look at it, it really does have the appearance of being a carpet that's there. Well, we're down to the sea, and take a look here. Off in the distance, well, we had the windsurfers as well that were there. And this time we had just come through the Straits of Gibraltar, and then we're moving into, this is in Seville, in Cadiz, Spain, and we were out stumbling around, and we ran onto this, this monument. And this one was actually dedicated to Cortez. And there, you can see the work there that they put into it. Probably the interesting thing, if you really stop to take a look at that, and the monuments and everything, is that you have to realize that the places we went and the things that we saw ranged from anywhere from 2,000 to some places nearly 6,000 years old. And, you know, we take a look, Houston County, what, we've been here for a little over 200 years. That's it. We're still babes when we compare ourselves to what the Europeans are in there. Banana trees. This is in the Tenerife Islands. It's there, the island itself, and this is a black sand beach, volcanic ash, and they said it's really great for early in the morning for people with arthritis, because the sand retains all the heat. You do not want to be on it in the middle of the day and with the sun shining as well. Also, there are very few actual beaches. It's pretty much rocky. We're about 180, 200 miles off the coast of Africa at that point in time. A couple of old sailing ships. They were actually passenger ships that were there. I much preferred ours, a little bigger and everything, than those. And I thought this was just a beautiful picture. This was one of the shows on board, and an aerialist performing about 4 or 5 feet up in the air. And we didn't come back on an airplane. We rode the ship back to Miami, Florida, and then we crawled on a plane and came home from that point. 2 things, let you pass around like quick. This is actually the ticket that you have for, if I can turn the lights on, the ticket to gain entrance into Mary's house that's there. They gave us these little jugs, and what you get for that is you could actually place water from the fountain of where Mary's house was located, and you can bring it back. We did somewhat of that as such, but it was a little different. Mary's house itself, the nuns' description of where to find it and all eventually proved to be exactly perfect as far as details and instructions go. It was definitely something that was there. It was a marvelous trip. We were fortunate to be able to go. Kent and Susan, Diane and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was just a terrific lifetime experience. If you get a chance, go. That's what you got to do. You got to go. So, with that, any questions?
What time did you told me, but I forgot. When were you there?
We left October the 23rd, and we got back the day before Thanksgiving, November the 21st. In there. We didn't even have to cook Thanksgiving dinner. It was a great time because it was right at the end of the season, and so therefore we didn't have to contend with huge crowds in any place. It was really quite easy to get around at all.
What were the temperatures of the places you were? How did they vary?
I figured it was going to be cool, kind of like fall here, and I carry long sleeve shirts. I wish I had many short sleeves. In fact, I ended up buying one. Most of the time, the temperatures ranged anywhere from about 50 to maybe 75 as such. But the only day we had any rain was in Dubrovnik, and it rained for about the first hour that we were there. Then it quit, sun came out, and every place we went was absolutely beautiful. Weather was gorgeous. Not only that, we missed every European strike that went on in the Tenerife Islands. the guy that was showing us around the island said, it's a good thing you're here today because tomorrow we're having a public worker strike. So it worked out really well. Any other questions? If you want to, I'm going to put a plug in here. If you want to look and design your own trips, well, you got two people. If you're going here, if you're going to Disney, you need to go to Shannon, right in there. But Vacations to Go is the site. I actually did it all myself, all the airlines, hotel in Venice, the whole business. They used Vacations to Go website, and the travel agent with them was out of this world. She's exceptional. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Really, really great show. Our next meeting is April the 9th, and Connie Clark and his family is going to be here to do a presentation on the fire towers and the life of the fire towers. Does anybody else got anything they'd like to bring up before we close the meeting now?
Make sure everybody is signed in.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure everybody's signed in so we can keep track of who's here tonight and what our numbers are and everything. Bob?
Randall would give us a brief rundown on the status of the hospital. A lot of people probably don't know, and it'd be interesting for him to tell us.
What do you want to know?
Everything to do.
I'll give you a little synopsis of how we got to where we're at. We started over a year ago, and George Clark, myself, and Larry Sykes and George Jerem were the basic committee, and we met with several people. We finally hired a law firm out of Nashville. You know, everything seems simple. You can get a law firm. Well, we had one that was going to do it for a reasonable price. They can't do it. They've got to have certain specific requirements about all this thing. Even as far as the survey, we couldn't use any surveyor in the area. So anyway, we met. We tried to come up with ways of doing it. We looked at what ifs if they closed down, if they filed bankruptcy, if we had condemnation on it, and if we could purchase it. Well, we had a real hard time with condemnation because the people that was going to float our loan was USDA, and that's the people that has the loan from Shoemaker. So we couldn't do much in that area. So anyway, end result, last night we voted to purchase a hospital, staying in the same budget we started out a year ago, which was $7.5 million. The hospital cost $400,040. There's $1.5 million in there for operation. There's 600 and something thousand for vendors. There is 2 liens against the hospital that will have to be taken care of. There's $2 million in there for renovation of the hospital. A gentleman came today who is working with us to run the hospital for 6 to 7 months, whose specialty is working with problem children, such as what we've got on the hill up here. And he has a pretty sharp resume on what he's done with other such facilities. They had to rename it, and they did it today, and I didn't go to the meeting, but if I'm wrong, please excuse me, but it's Houston County Community Hospital or something like that nature. But it already has a new name because they had to do it real quick for the loans. The loan will be completed March the 27th. The loan's for 3.1% for 30 plus years. So we've got a pretty decent loan. Can't tell you a lot more than that, other than we've got a staff at that hospital that's unreal. It's put up with all the junk that they have for the last year and a half and still hang around. Main thing for it to work is the people of Houston County and the surrounding area will have to start using the hospitals instead of driving to Clarksville, Nashville, something like that to have their tests. And if they got the flu, try to stay here rather than going to Fairfield. The hospital can be profitable if we can average 7 patients a day. So that's kind of a synopsis of what's going on. Got any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Thank you,
I
Randy.
think you would be commended. Y'all really pulled it out.
Definitely. Well, if nothing else is further, I'll close the meeting, and thank you everybody for showing up.
I have a comment about the sign at Magnolia.
Yes, ma'am.
That sign is on Irene Allison's property. She was living there at the time, and when we put that sign up, we thought it would be better to put it on her property where somebody lived than to put it on our property there by the shop, because it was, you know, there'd never be another building there. So I don't know if we should get into that again. Or the only one I know of that would be Gray to talk to, but I don't think any of them would object to anything we do about the sign. But I hope that you will still put it on that property, because there's still a house there, and I think people honor it more than they would to.
Anybody's not familiar, it's almost the size of that picture up there. It's a large historical marker. Got a lot of good information on the history.
Anything further? Well, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you everybody for showing up.
All right.
This is WCBN, Wells Creek Basin Network, Houston County, Channel 12.
Sponsors starting with Ace Hardware. They can be reached at 721-2500. They're located at Gray's Crossing there in Tennessee Ridge. That's on Highway 49. That's Ace Hardware. You can reach them at 721-2500. Ace Hardware, your friendly hardware place. Signature Healthcare, where quality of life is their mantra. Located in the Arlington community of here in Tennessee. They can be reached at 289-4141 for any information you may need. From a dream to reality, Traditions First Bank. They can be reached at 289-5500. It doesn't matter whether it's a banking account, a checking account, buying a car, or a house there. Check them out. Houston County's only hometown children daily, whether it's a simple volleyball or show or anything, just to keep it